Chapter 13, A Dream Job or a Nightmare. Who would have thought that my appearance would get scrutinized and my brains picked in order to become a flight attendant? I had to answer a question if, and if so, where I had any tattoos and scars. I got asked to give an example where I demonstrated assertiveness. I didn't even know what that meant, and so I asked the panel. They explained, and I came up with an example of my behavior that up until then I did not even have a label for. Not long after, I farewelled my family to go and live overseas and to fly. I liked staying in five-star hotels and handling different currencies. I even gloated walking through the airport, wheeling out little cases that contain our flight manuals. In not such distant past, it was me ogling flight attendants' uniforms and wondering what it must be like. And there I was enjoying layovers in places like Paris and tropical islands amongst others. I learned that the public was not privy to once I was initiated into this career. I thought it was a really nice treat when collecting our room keys in different countries to also be given an envelope with the local currency. This money was calculated according to however many meals we were eligible to have during our stay. It was priced as for the room service in the hotel where we stayed. Much of the time, many flight attendants, me included, ate outside of the hotel. This would leave extra money to save for next time or to spend on other things. I considered this allowance as a bonus and most of the time used it for transport, sightseeing and shopping. During my 3 years of flying, I experienced a few turbulent flights and one that we had to divert due to a leak in the air conditioning duct. This apparently meant that we could have landed but not taken off again. The landing was supposed to be in Nigeria, which was one place where we were strongly advised not to leave the hotel room. I did this flight on Christmas Day, so returning back to Dubai to spend this day by myself with no food in the house is not my fondest memory. However, safety in aviation is paramount, and I'm glad to report that I did not experience aborted takeoffs or other emergency situations. On a flight to Colombo, Sri Lanka, someone heard some noise coming from the rear toilet. A man came out after the crew banged on the door. The toilet was inspected by us and a piece of sticky tape found. We discovered that he taped packets of cigarettes to his body. He was travelling with a few of his friends who were all spread out throughout the economy cabin. Once we landed, all the passengers were asked to remain seated while the security entered the aircraft and removed the smugglers. One guy, while being escorted out, said to the purser, "And you are Sri Lankan?" And after a pause, "I know people, I'm gonna get you." Another flight showed me how small the world can be. It was a flight from Dusseldorf in Germany to Dubai. I was sitting at R3 facing a couple. The male made a joke to his partner that he wants a seatbelt like mine. Mine was almost like a harness. At the end of the flight, he said to me he met me in Australia 2 years prior. He seemed to be able to recollect that I took him to karaoke with 8 of my friends. All of a sudden, I remembered this German tourist asking me about a good place to go on a Monday night. My reply was, "Actually, it's pretty dead on Mondays, but I'm going karaoke with some friends tonight, feel free to come with," and so he did. He further told me that I looked familiar and the captain inadvertently gave him a clue by introducing the crew members over the intercom, saying that I come from Australia. I came across some funny situations. Some could have been very costly. When the purser says over the PA, public address system, "Crew, please arm your doors and cross-check," this actually means that the door would now have a slide engaged. If the door was to be opened armed, the slide would deploy and cost thousands of dollars to put back together. It's not the sort of mistake you want to make, especially as it could be deadly to the people loitering outside when the slide deploys. Once, when the aircraft landed, a caterer knocked on the window for the door to be opened. A passenger opened the door. Luckily, it was disarmed at this stage. During a flight, another passenger attempted to open the aircraft door, thinking it was a door to the toilet. Luckily, there was enough pressure to prevent that from happening. Otherwise, we would have found ourselves in a decompression situation. Some passengers had limited English and one man looked lost. I asked him if he was after a toilet. He said, "I want to piss." Another Pax came to the galley and said he wants pee. A colleague took him right in front of the toilet. At this instance, embarrassed, the Pax said pear, and the crew gave him a beer. A common occurrence was when I asked, "Would you like chicken or lamb?" The answer was yes. I then asked which one. The passenger would then swing his head from one side to the other. One Pax decided to use the menu to show me what he wished to order. Instead of pointing to the chicken or lamb inside the menu, he showed me the picture of the pea soup on the cover of a menu. "No, sorry, this one is one of those false advertising things." A funny response when it came to food choices was from one man who said, "My wife vegetable, I'm chicken." Sugar, salt and pepper were also packed together, and one Pax put it all in his tea. Another Pax said "suka" after being served a cup of coffee. I thought he was thanking me in Arabic, so I smiled and walked on. He repeated himself, but louder this time. It is then I realized he wanted another sugar. On some flights, body language caused more confusion than words. Passengers were making a fist and moving their thumb in and out of their mouth. This was meant to represent that they would like some water. And of course, there is some flight attendant fatigue resulting in stuff-ups. I got asked for Panadol and gave it to the wrong passenger. He put it in his mouth and then put it back in the wrapper. When I was walking past again, he asked me what it was. I told him, and he said he thought it was a mint. Layover, destination where we would stay a minimum period of 12 hours. Purser, flight attendant in charge of all the flight attendants on board and responsible for documentation. R3 toilet, lavatory located between passengers next to third aircraft door on the right-hand side when facing the cockpit. Pax, passenger. Galley, kitchen on the airplane.